Over 50% of people now live in cities. By 2050, it will grow to 70%. That's 1 million new city dwellers a week for 38 years. How does this affect us, our communities, our environment? The way we live in cities is one of the great challenges of our time. Smart urban growth can contend with this challenge if we do something now. EcoDistricts, a nonprofit dedicated to creating vibrant neighborhoods and smart cities, annually convenes city builders and entrepreneurs, policymakers and innovators from leading North American cities for the EcoDistricts Incubator. This annual gathering cultivates solutions for sustainable neighborhoods, which are the perfect scale for innovation, small enough to improve the lives of dwellers, yet large enough to inspire green cities.
This is one of the first gatherings that I know of where we're really diving into this issue of green neighborhood development. 3 days of learning, sharing best practices, and identifying the challenges that every one of our projects have in common.
The role of green communities and green cities, we're providing the leadership that I think is going to be, if anything, pulls, the world through this next couple of decades where, a lot of our environmental issues are going to come home to roost. I think a lot of that leadership is going to have to come from cities.
Most of the challenges that we face have to do with just changing perceptions. So a lot of the work we do is just about recasting environmental issues as people issues.
It brings the focus down to where people live, work, and play. And ultimately, that's where the change is going to occur.
This idea of larger scale strategies isn't too uncommon or too unique to a city large scale systems infrastructure, but the way that we're thinking about how infrastructure pieces together, the way we use our resources, how we convene people and make decisions for a better environment is new.
In Boston, we've done a lot on green building policy and have come at it from a building by building standpoint. What is exciting about EcoDistricts is now the opportunity to take it to scale. How do we look at a broader scale beyond just a parcel by parcel approach?
It's an important challenge to figure out how to communicate, how to effectively engage people in the conversation. EcoDistricts is a doorway, it's a portal, essentially, to other things.
We've been connecting dots for a long time here, and I think what EcoDistricts does is kind of takes a fresh cut at that.
Neighborhoods that give people a real sense of place, quality of life, that help them to be resilient in their households, to help insulate them against high energy prices, to help them interact with the natural environment. My job is to help create those things.
When I think about sustainability, when I think about resilient communities, when I think about first and foremost, I think of social justice, I think of racial justice. I lead with the equity piece. I think that the eco-district model represents something that is, I think, invaluable for people, which is just how to start, how to get something started. You just need something that's going to take a complex idea, a complex concept, and break it down into smaller digestible pieces. And I think that the incubator does that.
During the convening, individuals shared their experiences on how to revitalize their neighborhoods sustainably. Everything from individual projects to the strategic partnerships that make them possible.
You have to start with options. And what we had to do is have a variety of options, and it's like a funnel. How do you screen options without blowing tons of dollars? Does it even have the potential to pencil here?
We have several different types of communities that live very close to each other, yet the interaction components are very distant. And for most of these communities to survive and to exist for next generations, they have to work collaboratively with each other.
What you'll find in many situations is you have private property and you have public property. And it's a complicated world to cross those two property lines.
Each example, each place really has to start with the fundamentals of how long do we want to be together, what is it that we're trying to accomplish, and what assets and how rich is the ecosystem of players that ultimately need to be aligned to do the work. So it's not a one-size-fits-all.
I hope what green neighborhoods are doing is really kind of setting an example of what's possible for an entire city, and then serve as a model, across the country.
People in Cleveland need to hear about this. They need to know about this. They need to see what other people are doing. They need to think about this concept, get excited about this vision.
What excites me is the comprehensive way that we're bringing together all these disparate pieces. And sometimes when we think about developing a neighborhood, we think about it in fractured pieces and parts. So we might think about stormwater, and then somebody else might think about housing, and somebody else about transportation. But in a way, it's an opportunity to break down all those silos and different lenses and to come up with a united framework.
I was just really struck at one point by the generosity of spirit that I felt in the room with everybody who's here working towards, kind of a larger common goal. And it was really important, I think, for me and for our team to feel like we're not alone in this.
What excites me the most is that there's a framework that's been tried and tested. That it's not like we have to reinvent everything, that there's this framework that says we can look at things from an environmental perspective, but we also can look at it from a social perspective. And those two blend together. We in Oakland don't have to try and reinvent it. We can learn from the best practices that are out here.
I'm responsible for the City of Mountain View's economic development strategy, and the emphasis that's been put on over the last 2.5 days related to economic development is quite poignant. So now I'm thinking that one of the things we now have to do is go back, and I have to amend my strategy to now really start looking at sustainability.
By bringing together people like you, the EcoDistricts Incubator is creating a network within a network of city and project leaders who are leading the change in their cities. Each year, more than 1,000 years of collective experience gathers at an EcoDistricts Incubator, presenting a unique opportunity to share knowledge and experiences for revitalizing cities from the neighborhood up. We hope to see you at our next EcoDistricts Incubator.